Joe Wax. I'm the senior advisor to our county executive, Hudson County Executive Craig Guy. And on his behalf, I'd like to welcome you all to this very special ceremony, naming our Hudson County Public Safety Training Center name in memory of Congressman William J. Bill Pascrell Jr. This is it's a very special day for everyone here, including me. I grew up around politics my entire life. My family was involved. But my first job in government, I had the honor of serving as press secretary for Congressman Pascrell from 1997 to 2001. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And I've been now doing government and politics for 30 years, and it's been a pleasure. And Bill really gave me my start, and I couldn't thank him enough. I stand here today, and I can tell stories that will make us laugh and cry, but that's not the purpose. That's not why we're here. We're here to honor a great man, and that's what we're going to do.
Welcome to Hudson County, right? It's my pleasure to be here. It's my pleasure to stand in front of the spanking new sign of Congressman William J. Bill Pascrell, Hudson County Public Safety Training Center. So thank you to the Pascrell family for lending Dad to us in this police training facility. And thank you to Bill and his family for a lot of great memories, a lot of great hard work, a lot of great stories. Like Joe said, we probably won't have time to share them all. But most of all, thank you to the Pascrell family for giving us Dad for so many years. I met Bill early on in my career, and I met him as a Jersey City police officer. That's the capacity that I became engaged with Congressman Pascrell. Long before politics and long before serving in government, I met Bill Pascrell at a Jersey City Police Awards ceremony. And I asked him, I introduced myself, I asked him, who he was, and I was surprised that, a congressman at that point was coming to Jersey City. And what he said to me, and don't quote me, but it was something along the Bill Pascrell thing was, I come with a police and fire, something to that effect. And, that stuck with me over the years. And then Bill and I, followed each other's career. Bill was always so generous in calling me, giving me some sage advice over the years, giving my predecessor, Tom, some sage advice over the years. And then with the redistricting, obviously, Bill becomes a member of the Hudson County family. And when you're in this family, you're treated like family, right? Sometimes, once in a blue moon, once every 100 years, we have a little family dispute, and we square that away. And then we hopefully don't have one for another 100 years, right? But, Bill was always a voice of reason and some real sage advice. So I thank the Pascrell family for that. But, to name, and I remember talking to Joe Wax and BP3 right after Dad's passing. And, knowing Bill's passion for police and fire and first responders, we had just really unveiled our new police training facility here. And I just said, what an honor it would be for me and for my administration to acknowledge a person that gave his life for service and gave his life to public servants. And, Bill was so busy down in D.C. Just a couple things that I know some of the folks know, but maybe some of the people don't know. It's such an honor to name this place after Bill because it's so fitting. Before serving in Congress, Bill served as the mayor of Patterson, and at BP3, if anybody doesn't know, today we have a couple elections in Hudson County, right? So I think it's good me and Commissioner O'Day and Assemblyman Walker and Commissioner Romano and Congressman Menendez and Congresswoman. It's good that we're out here because, right, we're all safe. right? We're all safe out here. So, and that's not it's by design, that we can be out here and be safe in an environment that speaks so well of Bill Pascrell. When he got to Congress in 1997, Bill never forgot the experiences, and throughout his career, he remained such a strong advocate for first responders, public safety funding, and the men and women who put their lives on the line every day. And Director Miller, the young men and women that are out here now that are going through our academy, they should be proud, and I hope they understand the significance of what Bill Pascrell did over his career that helped them get to where they are today, helped us get to where they are today. And when young people don't want to be involved in the election process, I think it speaks volume for Congressman Pascrell, the work that he did for us, police and fire. They should understand that it does pay, and it does their obligation to vote, no matter how they vote, is important. So again, Mark, I think as part of your instructional platform, I think we should acknowledge Congressman Pascrell and what he did for first responders. Bill was the leader, the House author of the bipartisan Protect America's First Responders Act, which made it easier for first responders that were permanently disabled in the line of duty or their families to receive federal benefits. He also wrote the Fire Act, Firefighters Investment and Response Enhancement Act, which created the first federal program to allow local fire departments apply directly for federal funding for equipment, training, and staffing. Thanks to Bill, more than $14 billion have been granted to fire departments nationwide. Hudson County experienced that, and I know Congressman Menendez and Congresswoman Poe have followed in those footsteps in garnering funding from D.C., which we all know is so hard these days. This Congressman Bill Pascrell Public Safety Training Center represents Hudson County's commitment to ensuring our police officers, correctional officers, special police officers, and human law enforcement officers have access to the very best training and technology that best prepares them for their job. Every first responder who trains here will do so in a facility that bears the name of a man who dedicated his life to public service. Congressman Pascrell's family, thank you for being here today. I know we have a number of elected officials here that Joe Wax will acknowledge. To have both staffers and family and friends and elected officials here that express the interest and support for Congressman Pascrell is not lost and not insignificant. Also, Chairman Curry from out in your neck of the woods called me this morning and expressed his sorrow that he couldn't be here, but wanted me to know and express to the Pascrell family that he is grateful for Hudson County to have this facility be named after Congressman Pascrell. So thank you for being here, and let's all honor Congressman Pascrell.
Our father and his service means a great deal to us. A dad believed deeply in public service. Working for the community and knowing his legacy is respected provides us with immense comfort. Just a few closing remarks. Director Miller, thank you for allowing us on your property, and we're here to help in any way we can. I'm so thrilled that many of the members of police and fire are here throughout the state. And another famous saying from Richard Scaman, part of the responsibility of a political man is to take his lumps, whether he deserves them or not. He may be as pure as the driven snow, and his enemies totally unfair. But whoever said that fairness was a part of our game, that is true. Last Thursday night, my family and I were at Fordham University dedicating a little branch of Walsh Gym on Rose Hill to Dad's legacy. And what's really cool is he's going to do the same thing for Geraldine Ferrero, who's a graduate, for Denzel Washington, and for Bob Casey, the CIA director under Reagan. So for Dad to be in that quadruplet is quite amazing. Dad was brought into this county before he was an elected official to run Hudson County for Jim Florio's failed gubernatorial race in 1981. Why did they bring Dad in? Because back then, as Craig Guy appropriately said, Hudson County couldn't agree on anybody from the county. And there was a feud going on in Jersey City between the mayor and Mayor Wannabes. And so Dad came in, and that was the famous recount election. Jim Florio was my mentor and hero in addition to Dad. I want you all to know from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. It's not easy. It's a busy day. And I'm grateful. The Pascrell family is grateful. And Craig, thank you for this honor.
Everyone, you know, I can go down memory lane, but it'll take a while though, let me just say. And as I was listening to the county executive, let me just say, I remember when I first met Bill, which was, I was only 20 or 22 years old back then. So we've known each other for a very, very long time. I am so very thrilled to be here. And of course, Joe Wax, that is. Joe was just this young, very tall young man. But so I remember him back then and all of those that we worked on many, many campaigns. And Billy O'Day, let me just say, I remember the day when those buses used to come in and I had to deal with those. Remember that, Billy? I'm like, oh, Lord, have mercy. But nevertheless, good morning to everyone. Good morning to everyone who is here. As I said, all of you, thank you. Thank you, County Executive Craig Guy, our Hudson County commissioners, our law enforcement leaders, our first responders, and of course to all my dear friends, longtime friends of the Pascrell family. I consider myself as one of yours. So I am just so very happy always to see you. You guys are just so very much a part of my life. So thank you for your support. Thank you, Glenn, Billy, and David, Kelly, all of you. I'm gonna end up naming everyone, so forgive me. Let me just say it's so wonderful to be with all of you once again. You know, there are absolutely, there are some public servants whose names become part of the places they serve. Bill was one of these people. Bill loved helping people. He loved fighting for people. We know what he was as a fighter, so he really loved fighting for people. And he especially loved standing up for the men and women who put on a uniform for their communities. Bill's commitment to our first responders first came from his years as mayor. It was mentioned how he led his career, and he was a very proud mayor of Paterson. That understanding, though, drove his work for decades in Congress. Bill didn't just give speeches about it. He wrote laws, he built programs, and he protected funding, and he delivered results. As the longtime chairman of the House Law Enforcement Caucus, Bill became one of the strongest champions for police officers. His record in support of police is unmatched. And I would say it was always law enforcement, because Bill loved the police department, but he also loved the fire department and everyone who really cared and took care of all of us in one way or the other as law enforcement. He fought to protect and expand the burn JAG and the COPS grant, as it was mentioned earlier. He led efforts to reauthorize the Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program. He wrote legislation supporting officers dealing with traumatic brain injuries for TPSP, B rather. His own law made sure first responders injured in the line of duty received the benefits that they earned through services and sacrifice. On top of all of that, Bill was also the head of the Congress Fire Service Caucus and the father of the Fire Grants and Firefighters Cancer Registry. And budget proposals threatened programs for police and fire departments that absolutely depended on that. Bill fought back. When local departments needed resources, Bill's doors was always open. The program Bill championed has delivered billions of dollars to police and fire departments across America. It is because of his initiative, his vision, that was made possible. This support has helped communities hire officers, purchase life-saving equipment, improve training, as it was mentioned, enhance public safety, and better protect the people that they serve. So today, it absolutely feels exactly right. What a beautiful sentiment it is to be able to not only see Bill's name on this building, but it is just so very fitting, County Executive, that it's here in Hudson County. Let me just say, and we all know why that is. It was mentioned earlier. And because this is not just a building. This is a place where future generations of police officers and first responders will train to protect our communities. With his name on this center, every recruit who walks through those doors will certainly know Bill Pascrell. And every person who knew Bill will know that this tribute is deeply, deeply deserved. Every single time that I have had the pleasure of coming to a special event or a special dedication in Bill's name or his legacy, or to speak about Bill, the most beautiful thing that I see is everyone who is here and present. You see all of his staff, many of his staff, former staff who no longer work for Bill, who continue to come and pay tribute and pay respect. And it just shows how much Bill not only loved doing what he loved, but he was a great person for his staff, a beloved person. So I say thank you to all of you. I say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to continue to always remember and remind that this will always be Bill's district. This will always be Bill's seat, because his memory will continue on for years, if not generations to come. Thank you so very much. Really happy.
What a privilege it is to be here with all of you. Craig, to the entire county, thank you for doing this. It feels weird to be in Hudson honoring Bill because he was such a devout Pattersonian. Everyone in Congress knows you spell it with one T because they yell it at you. You know, where are you from, Congressman Patterson? One T. And so, but this is a great honor because he loved Hudson. And I want to just thank the Pascrell family for sharing him with us. I get to see, I've been on both ends of this, and I know what goes into it on the family side. And he was a national treasure, and I'm so glad so many around the country got to experience him. Not just those here in New Jersey, but so many of his colleagues who still carry with them every single day in their work. And you know, with law enforcement, fire, first responders, it was very simple for Bill. It was always about taking care of those who take care of us. And it was a simple but principled view that he had, and that led and guided all of his work that he did, all of the bills that so many others have spoken about. And every time my first term, he was such a great mentor to me, such a great friend. But every time I'd get a bill across my desk for co-sponsorship, and if it was a first responder bill, I would just ask, is Bill on the bill? And if he was, then I knew it was a good piece of legislation to get on. But I started to get a little bit more experience, and I was out visiting firefighters, and they were telling me about some of the challenges that they have, especially in their firehouses with the plumes that come off the trucks, etc. So the next week we were in Washington, and I saw Bill on the floor. And I said, Bill, I was visiting this firehouse in the district, and they were telling me about some of these issues that they have with the truck and sort of the plumes, etc., how they come off the truck, and those are where they sleep, where they eat, all this stuff. And we need to do something about it. And he said, that's a great idea, bro. We absolutely should. I said, all right, well, I'm going to get to work. I'll save you the time. I already have a bill on this. And so, I realized I was getting a little ahead of myself on Bill, on first responder and fire stuff. But I consider myself incredibly fortunate to have spent those first 2 years in the house with Bill. And he was so generous with his time, and he guided me through so much. And he was such a fighter, and we all are so fortunate to have had Bill in our corner, whether as his family, as his peers, as his colleagues, but all of us who shared the community that he loved. The last thing I want to share, especially with the folks who are the trainees, cadets here, and for all of us, is at Bill's funeral, during the priest's remarks and eulogy, he said something that stuck with me. And it was that hope has two daughters, anger and courage. Anger at the way things are and courage to do something about it. And Bill always had the courage to do something about what he saw that wasn't right. And that's what always guided his work in Congress as a mayor and all the time that he spent giving back to our community. And it's so important that all of us remember that when we're angry about the way things are, we always need to find the courage to do the right thing, to set the course the way it should be. This is a place where the future leaders of our public enforcement will be trained and where they will find their courage to lead our communities forward. So thank you all so much.
On behalf of the county commissioners, to Bill Jr. and his family and all the rest of the siblings that he has, that you all mean a lot to us, and they'll always be part of Hudson County. So I'm designated this today. I'm not going to read the words to this resolution we have, but I would like to ask, member of the family to come up here along with the Dean of Commissioners, Bill O'Day. Jerry Walker was a commissioner at the time, and our quarterback, Craig Guy, to come up to help me present this to the family.
That was commissioned when Governor Murphy named Route 19 after my dad last October. And so I wanted to make sure you had one of these for your showcase. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold it up.
Tracy, anything else?
So I'm going to be a little bit, I think, more lighthearted when it comes to Bill Pascrell. So you are correct. 40 years ago, actually even a little longer, but 40 years ago, and it's a little bit poetic because it was the election for the mayor of Patterson in 1986. And myself, then councilman, I was like a first-year councilman, and I was a lot younger then. If you stay in this business long enough, you become called the OG, and you wear that with a badge of honor. But we went up there with a group of people to help Bill Pascrell in his first election for mayor. And I was driving through North today, and I see all these signs, because there's an election the other day, on the polls for all these candidates. So they sent us out one night, and they said, we want you to put up signs for Bill Pascrell. The election was, I think, 2 days later. It was a Sunday night. So we go up. We got a 10, 15. Craig remembers his helmet. Yeah. He was the king of the sign crew. We were up there. We must have spent 4 or 5 hours. So we go back to headquarters, and so did a great job. We were happy, highway, streets, and we said, what do we do with the other signs? So, what other signs? Well, we ripped all the other people's signs down. And said, whoa, we don't do that up in Patterson. I said, don't worry, we're from Hudson County, we'll bring the signs with us. True story, true story. A little known story is that in 1985, the Port Authority was threatening to take what was then known as Block Drug, which is now our building, County Plaza, and demo it for a rail yard for Port Authority. The public relations person hired to fight against it was Bill Pascrell. Back in those days, there was an ad in the New York Times that was calling out Tom Kean to stop it. And it listed, thanked everyone, every Democrat in the world, Peter Shapiro, assembly people, et cetera, et cetera. I had a meeting with Tom Kean to convince him to tell the Port Authority to abandon the plan. And he's pissed off about this ad, right? And he said, I don't understand it, I'm not. And I said, who do you know who did this ad? I said, Bill Pascrell. Oh, now I understand. And ultimately, Kean blocked it, and right now that is the offices of our county plaza. Third story, and I think the point of this is that you learn in politics, there are two kinds of people. There are transactional people, and there are relationship people. Bill Pascrell was always a relationship person. 40 years later, I'd always think of him. He called me a few months before he passed away. And one of the connections that I had to him that I didn't know when I first worked on his campaign is that my sister's brother-in-law, Frank Smara, was one of Billy's best friends. And occasionally they would call me late at night. I think they were either discussing politics or whatever at a local establishment. I would get reports from vacations from Frank when they would come back about how much fun they had. So I had this other little connection and insight to it. But the last story was in 2012 when your dad ran for Congress. He had to run against Rothman. Right? So your dad was always a fighter, always courageous, a relationship guy. And in Hudson County, he didn't get the line. I checked. Mark Smith was the chairman, so everybody here's good. Everybody here's okay. Mark Smith's not here. All right, beautiful. So I get a phone call, and it's your dad. And Bill calls me up. So Billy, I'm running for Congress again. You got my support all the time. Great. I got a little bit of Hudson County now, and Kearney, part of Kearney, part of Sea Caucus, and I need endorsements. All the Sea Caucus are. I need some endorsements. I said, okay. I said, can I count on you? Of course you can count on my endorsement. I said, the HCDO knows I don't get upset if they get pissed off once in a while. And then I called them back, and I thought Jeff was going to be here, and Jeff Dublin was at Freeholder. I said, look, I'll get you another Freeholder, Jeff Dublin. I don't think he knows anybody in Kearney or Seacoast, and what the hell, he's an elected official. And before I hung up, I said, look, whatever you need, you can use my name. I said, I don't know, maybe I know 25, 30 people between there. He said, great. He said, just make sure you call each and every one of them and make sure that they vote for Bill Pascrell. So he was a gentleman, he was a scholar, as everyone said earlier, all the things that he did and fought for public safety. He wore it on his sleeve. But he's just a great guy, and he was just a regular guy. And he never thought he was better than anybody else. You put him in a room with kings, and he was regular. You put him in a room with union guys, he was regular. You bring him to a public housing site, he fit anywhere we went, because he's just a regular street, great guy. I miss him, I loved him. He's got an amazing family, and Congressman, I just have to make one final point. You mentioned buses. Yes, there were multiple occasions that we sent buses with people to work on his campaigns. For the media, they were not buses from the Hudson County Schools of Technology. For the record, they were paid for by the election campaign, and the election reports will prove that. Thank you very much.
1, 2, 3. Yeah!